Well, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about the on-track incident with Marijn and AJ. That was a big hot topic, and he's got about 10,000 views on Facebook, something near that on Instagram. We'll play it fully through here. Then we'll go around the horn and have everybody give their thoughts about it. We'll end off with Jake and myself here since Jake was on track and probably had the best view of it, even better than our cameras. So let's take a look.
We go back to the lead. Look at that. Marijn Kremers trying to get up the inside. Oh, massive contact for the lead. Marijn Kremers and AJ Myers collide. Myers is stuck in the sand. And the leader, your driver who got the whole shot, your reigning national champ, is all the way at the back.
I guess I should have known better. It's the only way they can beat me is just to take me out or crash with me. So made no contact. And the second apex, he just closed the door when he knew I was still there. Put two wheels into the dirt, trying to survive. I was on the brakes, downshifted an extra gear, but he just left me no space, and we unfortunately wrecked. Then afterwards at the scales, the whole team just throwing water bottles at me, calling me names, and it's a little bit unprofessional, I think.
Plain and simple, we're on the exit of the double apex turn 1, and I have half a cart on him, and we end up on the outside dirt. So I don't know how I would be pinching him to the inside. We made it through turn 1 fine. We made it through turn 2 fine. We didn't make it to the exit of the corner. I'm on the outside. I can only go so far.
Yeah, what happened in the pits?
Oh, no, I came up and said, what was that, man? I was calm. He was a little upset. I think there was something behind. That's what really what it was. I didn't do anything. Marijn was mad. He didn't really do anything. So I don't know what he's all upset about, because in my eyes, I expect better out of a world champion.
So Marijn actually, where AJ's alluding to there that we missed a little bit on the broadcast, Marijn got into it with his teammate Michael Stevens later on in the race. Stevens was defending on him for a couple laps in a row, and then those two collided, and it ended up with Stevens in the dirt and Marijn continuing. I think Marijn got a small penalty for it, but I think he was more riled up about that trying to come through the field. But at least looking on this incident, let's go around the horn with guys we haven't talked to as much. At least here, for Caleb, you were in the booth with me. What was your take on the whole deal?
It'd be easy for me to say this is what should have happened. I'm not in the seat anymore, and I was in the situation. But, racing incidents happen. I don't think it was anything more than that. I think, like you were saying, Marijn was a bit upset about what he had to deal with. AJ normally is able to walk away with races, and this weekend he was under a little bit of pressure. What you're talking about with, respect thing, typically there's more respect when it comes to shifters because they're quicker, it's more consistent. I know myself and Jake French have done a couple of street races, and that's where you see the most respect, especially in the gearboxes, because there's a barrier and then there's a couple of curbs afterwards. So, it's not unusual to see that everyone's going for, especially that much money, but I think it was just a racing incident.
It was a racing incident again. It was two guys going hard for the same spot, going through the double right-hander there. It looked like AJ gave Marijn space for the first apex, and Marijn backed out of it, and then he realized that AJ was giving him space, so he kind of tried to go back into there, and AJ thought because Marijn backed out, he could just take the second apex. As I think I can understand where both of them are coming from with that, and it was just hard racing, and they made contact. Like you said, they both have apologized, and I think gotten over that hill that was right there. So I don't know if you can really put any specific blame on anybody. It's just two guys racing hard as they should for, frankly, a lot of money at this point.
Dalton, what's your take on the deal? You were watching, you're a driver that was racing through that corner here this weekend, but in single speed stuff.
No, I definitely agree with Aaron. It was definitely more close to a racing incident than it was anyone else's fault. Personally, going through that corner, you're going really fast, not a lot of time to think, especially in shifter. You don't have a second to think about what you're doing when you get into the corner when you're side by side. What Aaron said kind of did make sense about when AJ went in and Marijn didn't realize he was going to give him room, and then he did, so he went in more. But at the end of the day, they were side by side. AJ could have given him a little bit more room, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's happening so fast. So AJ's not going to think to just turn just a little bit less, So it's a racing incident.
And then, Jake, you were on both the receiving end and the offensive of passes through turn 1, and like we talked at the beginning of the show, they were a little more physical than maybe where we've seen some of the shifter racing, where guys are kind of letting each other go a little bit more. It seemed like this weekend, like you said, whether it's the purse, whether it's the fact that there were more big guys all in the mix, and it was one big line and not just one-to-one deal. The guys were fighting for position a whole lot more. What was your deal from your viewpoint from in the seat, and then obviously look at the replay after?
So actually, you can't see it a little bit earlier in that clip. Marijn actually pulled out really, really late, arguably probably after they broke. I was honestly kind of surprised with the earlier in the race that he went that hard that quick. He went hard into turn one. It was a little aggressive, a little deep, and I think they even had contact the first apex of turn one. And then that's what sent AJ a little bit wide. Marion gave the throttle hard, thinking that since he pushed AJ out a little wide, he can get his cart in there. Well, AJ didn't want to give him the room, came back down thinking he had the corner, and well, they made contact. So definitely, both sides were, I wouldn't say overly aggressive, but aggressive. But I think it was more of a racing incident than it was either one of their fault.
Which is exactly how the officials ended up looking at it. Obviously, they didn't interact in either way of putting blame on it. I actually had a couple club guys that had texted me, a couple club race directors that had asked, hey, what was, your thought? What did SKUSA do here in this situation? Because this, when you get to judgment calls like that at the top level for the lead, there's eyeballs on it. SKUSA's got an amazing camera system. They look at it in every single way that they can. I mean, they're deliberate and they know what's on the line, right? The championship is massive with the way that things were going into that day. Everyone's trying to knock Marion back into points. He still came out with a really solid weekend by the end of it, but AJ's making up for lost ground. You're making up for lost ground. Wick's doing the same thing, so they know the gravity. And my take, again, I think Aaron called it perfectly there, right? Like. And you can't even see it because our camera's from the side, but I believe you with where you're at, Jake. He pulled out late, after you guys even started braking, kind of dove late, almost faded at him, whether or not he wasn't sure if he wanted to go. And then AJ gave him space in the first part of the corner. And I had one of them ask, well, my response would be if they wreck in the first of the two apexes, hands down, I think that's a Marion issue, because he wasn't far enough inside to go down in there. Where they're going through the corner and where they wrecked by the end of it, that's where I think it turns a little more into a racing deal because, again, AJ's given space. Marion's kind of letting off the brake, gassing it up a little bit to try and get fully alongside, and I think they were going to come out even. And then where it ended up coming together is AJ's keeping him tight to try and make sure that he still has the nose out in front when he's going to wash out going into the next corner, and Marion clips the curb on the bottom. If that curb isn't there or if he's got 2 extra feet of asphalt down below him, they probably don't touch and they drag race the next corner. Marion either gets hung out to dry, drops back to third, or he slots into second. But as soon as he popped the curb there, that's what ended up hooking them together. And then at that point, once you touch tires, you're along for the ride. And then I don't have the clip here queued up ready, but for those that also, you can go look it up. Same thing on our Facebook, on our Instagram, or back in the live stream. Both of those guys through the day Sunday, and then after the final of running all 20 laps of the main event, nose to tail, single file, AJ and Marion and Kyle shook hands, thumbs up to each other. I mean, they were given respect at the end of it. And that's the type of stuff that we can talk about on this show, that we can break down, that we can push for the class, that we can, bring guys on and say, hey, Jake, what do you think about this? Or Dalton, what do you think about that? Or any of the other drivers. That's the stuff that's awesome because we had a split decision down the whole comment section. Marion was like, man, it seems like everybody on Facebook is mostly on AJ's side. Everybody on Instagram is mostly on my side. I mean, it was a racing deal at the end of the day. It takes 2 to tango, right? And again, they handled it well too. You can get heated, you can kind of say stuff in post race, but by Sunday morning, they were cooled off. The racing was clean. It didn't carry over because it wasn't that blatant. And I think they both realized that it was a hard racing deal. And like I said at the beginning of the show, both of those guys, when I went to them on the grid, and even you, when I talked to you on the grid before morning warm-up, Jake, you were like, we put on a show yesterday. Wish it was me that was winning, but it was a show. And that's what we need.